Hi, thanks so much for joining us today at the latest live episode of Inside Track. I'm Mike Guy, Editor-in-Chief of R&T, which is a new premium lifestyle magazine in the Hearst Autos family, aimed at what we call super auto enthusiasts. More than a new magazine, it's also a new brand. So quickly, before we jump into hearing from our very special guest today, I'd like to tell you about R&T Track Club, our new membership program. Also, at the end of our conversation, we will be taking questions. Scroll to the comment area below. That's the comment area below. You might be asked to create a username, but post your questions there. Quickly about the Track Club. There are 3 tiers. The first is the Paddock, in which you receive 6 issues of R&T magazine with unlimited digital access. These collector's editions will bring you great, exclusive, deeply reported automotive and lifestyle content every other month. The next tier is the Grid tier. And with this, you get all access to print and digital, plus monthly virtual experiences, early access to all live events, a welcome gift, and dozens of discounts, perks, and other partner benefits. And the top tier is our Founders tier. And the Founders are truly in the inner circle with enhanced benefits of Paddock and Grid, plus multiple opportunities to connect with the community and join R&T editors at automotive events around the world. That's me and the other editors. So go to roadandtrack.com/join to sign up now. Today, I am joined by the legendary racing icon, the King, Mr. Richard Petty. He is the winningest racer in auto racing history, and perhaps, obviously, when you see him as the most recognizable figure in all of NASCAR. He's at one time been a son, a father, and a grandfather to NASCAR racers. And how dominant is the King? He has won 200 races in his career, including 7 Daytona 500s. And in 1967, which we'll get to in a minute, he won 27 races, 10 of those consecutively, which is kind of hard to explain to somebody who doesn't really get into racing, but it's almost impossible to do. It's never been done before. I don't think Jimmy Johnson maybe strung a couple wins together at the peak of his career, but 10 in a row, that's insane. It's a level of dominance that puts you, Mr. Petty, in the realm of Schumacher, Hamilton, Andretti, but even better, actually. It's a rare opportunity to sit down with a guy like Richard Petty, but here we are. I'm excited to learn more about his crazy 3-decade career, and also to talk about 2020 and what a weird year it's been. I know you have your mask there, your 43 mask there, and also the future of NASCAR. You know, it's going to be a lot of challenges, and I look forward to hearing from you. I think you started in 1958. It'd be crazy to ask you how the racing world has changed since then, since that was, I think, the Eisenhower administration. But I'm wondering how you feel like NASCAR fared this year, for better or worse. I mean, with the pandemic, with no fans in the stands, like it was quite a pivot. It was extraordinary, unprecedented, all of these things. Like you've seen it all from the beginning, from the first Daytona 500 to now. Like how are we doing?
Well, really, we was the first sport to try it. NASCAR was. And they sat down and figured out a way that we could run the races and show it up on TV with no fans. And it's been successful from that standpoint. And, you don't ever know what's going on. They're starting now to let a few fans in, maybe 10,000 here, 20,000 there, according to how big the racetracks are. So, it's a coming thing. And, the main deal is that we're at least surviving. And that's what it's all about right now until this epidemic is over. Everybody kind of settles down, goes back to somewhat normal life, and then everything will come back around.
Yeah. What have you been up to, by the way? I mean, during the first quarantine lockdown, like you're in Randleman, North Carolina, you just hanging out at the museum. Like what, how did you pass the time?
Hanging out a little bit everywhere. Been talking a lot on these things here, talking to people I've never seen before. See them on the screen. Kind of odd, from my standpoint. I'm not big on electronics and all that stuff, but it's been very interesting. And, it's one of the deals where you kind of take your society or yourself and adjust to whatever the circumstances are. So, when we quit going to the races, then we went home and they figured out another way to make it work. So, at my house, I got electronic deals where I can keep up with whatever thing's going on at the racetrack, watch it on TV, listen to the crew chief and the driver. So I'm there except in person. And, not a whole lot I can do about it, but I still get a lot of the feeling from that standpoint. But as far as, doing appearances, doing the things that you normally do, all that stuff's just shut down. So spending a lot of time at home, playing in the garden or trimming bushes or, and trying to stay away from everybody as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge difference for you because I've been to a lot of NASCAR races. I've seen you a lot. I mean, you go through the pits and any NASCAR race and the king is walking around. You can see your hat from a mile away. And it's such an interesting transition for NASCAR because it's the one sport where all these fans can pack in to into the pits and be around the drivers and everybody else. It's really fascinating to see how the change that you guys have adjusted. I think it's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah, I really miss that part. I've probably been to 90% of the races that NASCAR's ever had because I used to go with my father when he raced, and then when I started racing, so I ran most all the races, and then when they threw me out of the driver's seat, I still went to all the races because we owned the car, take care of the sponsorships, and take care of the fans that make it all work. And so a lot of that is really, really different. So when everything does come back to reality, then everything's going to be a little bit different. NASCAR is going to run their races a little bit different. A lot of the sports are going to be different just because people have found another way of doing things. That we've been racing so long, since 1949, as far as cup racing. And you just keep on going, it keeps on working, you keep on working. So you don't really look for a lot of new avenues, except maybe with the car, but as far as the races are concerned, qualifying, practice, all that stuff's been the same forever. And I think in the future, you're going to see a lot of that change because we found out a way of getting the race done and hopefully satisfying our customers, which are the fans, and still make it done in a quicker and a neater way. So I'm looking forward to that part of it.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to, a lot of people have been asking questions of me when they found that I was talking to you. One of the ones they keep returning to, because you've raced so many cool cars in your career, so we don't have to go through this at the end of the conversation. You're in your museum. I see the Superbird right behind you. I think I see the Buick Regal next to that. I mean, do you have a favorite cars everybody's favorite audience cars, maybe the Superbird, but where do you land?
Yeah, I probably got 2 or 3 cars that were outstanding. The Superbirds, I guess everybody knows about the Superbird, so that kind of comes up first. But then we got the 67 car where we won all the races. Really, it started as a 66 car, and we won Daytona with the thing in 7 or 8 other races in 66. And in 67, we built a brand new 67 car, and we never had a lot of good luck with it. So we went back to the 66 and made it into the 67. And we ran it all 67 season and also ran it 4 races in 68. And but it ran it 4 races, won 2 of those. So that car's got a bunch of wins in it. But probably the most satisfying car we ever had was like a 73, 74 Dodge potty style, because aerodynamically, and that was one of the deals where we didn't ever understand aerodynamics like we do now. It was just a super good car on a short track, super speedway, road course. Didn't make any difference where you took the car. It was aerodynamically good. And so we won a few races with that car too.
Yeah. There's all the Mopar fans out there just freaked out. I know a lot of like Mopar Man 53, for instance, keeps sending me messages, asking what the favorite car is. But to hear that it's a Dodge, one of them's a Dodge at least. So I kind of wanted to jump into your career a little bit, kind of starting, we can look at some video, but your rookie year, well, first time Daytona 500 was run at the Super Speedway. It was in 1959. Your dad won the race, and you started it. And I hate to point this out, but you finished, I think, second to last. You blew an engine.
Do it. Yeah. What happened that year? In 58, I'd run the convertible circuit, and then. Everything kind of changed and things moved around, and ran the 79, I'll get mixed up on years. 59, we started in the convertible circuit, and they ran some convertible cars against the hardtop cars. So when they went to Daytona, they ran a 100-mile convertible race and a 100-mile hardtop race. And then when the race started, the hardtop started on the inside and the convertible started on the outside. And the convertibles were like, 10 or 12 mile an hour slower than the hardtops. And so I had geared the car for convertible speed, which was 130 mile an hour. And then when the race started, the draft was 140 mile an hour. And the engine went clean out of here. But we didn't understand, if we could change gears or something. But anyhow, that's the way it wound up. And then they ran the whole race. They ran that whole race with no caution flags, the whole 500 miles. And it came down to my dad and Johnny Beauchamp, kind of racing for the lead. And nobody understood or even knew about a draft at that particular time as far as being able to draft by a car. They got side by side, and the way the arrows and stuff were, that it just sort of glued the cars together. And it was just one of the deals that my dad, I think he won it by about a foot and stuff. Took them 3 days to figure out that Lee Petty won the race. And at that time, and then since then, every racetrack we've got now has got, a picture taker, a camera at the start finish line. But at that time, nobody thought running 500 miles, how these cars will be close to each other. But it wound up being a super good race, and it really got Daytona off to a good start, because on Monday, if Dad had won the race, it'd have been in the paper on Monday. The way it was in the paper on Monday, it was in the paper on Tuesday, it was in the paper on Wednesday, and then they finally decided on Wednesday, so it got in the paper on Thursday. So it was all over the country, and it couldn't have been a better start for a brand new racetrack.
I love how competitive you and your father were when you were racing against each other. I know he threw I forget which race it was, but I remember growing up reading about you had won a race and he protested it and took the race away from you.
No, they had flagged me the winner. We thought we had won. And this was when it was running at Lakewood Speedway in Atlanta, Georgia. They ran a 150-mile race on dirt. And they wound up flagging me. I was in a convertible. They wound up flagging me the winner. And so that was the first race that we even got close to winning, I guess, because we just got started in our career. And somebody said, well, somebody's protested. Said, your dad protested you. He won the race. And when it was over, my dad explained this to me. He said, I want you to win races and stuff, but at that time, they were paying $500 extra for a model year for a 59 car, and I was in a 57 car. So he said, look, we taking home $500 more if I win the race. And that's okay. I was 21 years old. Man, I tickled death in second. So the main deal, we won the race.
That's fair. I want to jump forward a little bit to 67, because I just find that year to be so fascinating. And it's such a moment in the history of all motorsports that I think that almost isn't talked about enough, the level of dominance that you achieved. As you pointed out, in last year's car. You won, I think the 10 straight you won in the 66 as well.
Yeah, it was 66 car with 67 sheet metal on it.
Yeah. So what was the secret sauce that year? How did you achieve a level of dominance that nobody has ever repeated? I mean, you were racing against Andretti, Allison, Pearson.
It's just one of those deals where everything lined itself up. You run, there was 2 or 3 races in there where we was 2 or 3 laps down or something. We'd had trouble in the car, and we was fast enough to go, still win the race. A couple of them we won, I think, because somebody else fell out. They was leading the race, and they fell out of the race. And back then, you got to figure the cars were pretty daggum stock, and so they wasn't bulletproof. So when you drove the car and figured the race, you had to figure, I can run this fast and not tear the car up. If I run any faster or try any harder, I'm going to tear the car up. So I think we was patient enough to know that you had to be around at the end of the race to be able to win. And anyhow, it was just, everything just flowed, and we really didn't approach it that much different. The only thing is, we'd won 4 or 5 races and hadn't even thought about it. I mean, in a row. And then the only thing we could think about, we got to get this car back because we got another race next week. So we got to get it back to the shop, go through it, get it ready, and didn't really think about it till, I don't know, 9th or 10th race, I guess, before we really realized that, that we was putting a record together. And, it was just one of those things that, again, it just happened, and I'm just lucky it happened to us.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, luck. I have a hard time believing that. The pressure to win that 10th straight must have been pretty insane.
Well, I don't think there was any pressure on us because at that particular time we was good enough to win most any place we went. So when we got to the racetrack, we just in our mind we was going to win the race. So you went out and approached it that way, and it turned about. But the 11th race wasn't too good. We got in a wreck, and then I think they blew the motor. I mean, I think we went downhill from there, but we was on a pretty big hill when we quit after 10.
I mean, it brings us to the 79 Daytona 500, which is perhaps the wildest finish of all time, in which you really went for it with Pearson. You guys both kind of lost your minds a little bit. Can you just tell us a little bit about this finish everybody knows so well?
Well, it was just one of those situations where, the last lap comes up and I'm busy leading the race, and Pearson's behind me. I know he's going to slingshot me. The deal was he didn't get me past till right dead at the end of the straightaway. And when he did, was coming up on the car, he had to get out of his groove a little bit, and I was able to cut down under him and get back in the groove. And I thought I'd cleared him. I guess I had, all except maybe this much. And so when we come off the 4th turn, I'm going to take as much track as I can. The deal was there wasn't enough there. And we had a little bit of a misfortune there of wrecking 2 cars. And, Pearson went down pit road, and he spun. He ran into the car. They kept him going. Well, my car stopped, and I was probably, 50 yards from the start-finish line, and couldn't get the thing cranked back up. Spinning out and stuff, it just flooded the carburetor, and we just couldn't get it going. And in fact, the guys come out, they're going to push me across. And the way NASCAR is, the way the rules are, if the car has helped any at all on the last lap, you lose that lap. So I wound up a lap down, even though I was a lap ahead of the 3rd place man, so we still ran 2nd. But it was just, it was a heck of a deal. I tell you what, it brought a bunch of people back to the next race. I know that.
Yeah, it was an eye opener. That was sort of there was like it brings us sort of a couple of years later, 79, which was, I think, the most important race in a weird way in NASCAR history. It's the first time that the full 500's ever run on live TV. It was like a real turning point for NASCAR. And of course, you were right in the mix of it. you weren't going to win the race.
What happened that weekend, it snowed all up and down the East Coast. I mean, and you didn't have a lot of cable TV and stuff. I think it was just three channels on the TV at that time. And so they decided to do it live on TV. And, everybody up and down the East Coast, I guess all over the country anyway, but up and down the East Coast, they couldn't go out, couldn't do that. So they watched the race on TV. And, Allison and Cal Yarborough, they just ran off and left us. It was me and Ford and Darrell was racing for third place. We were having a heck of a race, but nobody's paying attention to us. And, we come off the second corner and the caution light comes on. And, we know that whichever one gets back to the start finish line is going to run third. Well, we get about 2/3 of the way down the back streets, and there lays the 1 and 2 car in the infield. So, we idle on around and run on around. And I was fortunate enough to beat Darrell. And I think AJ, when the light come on, I think AJ lifted just a second. Right? And we both got by him. And so he wound up third. And it was just one of those deals where I've lost some races down there, but this one we really lucked into because we had a third place car. But, when things all over with, we won the race, and that was the main thing.
I mean, it was a crazy moment because it was the first time everybody outside of the Southeast of America, got to see a full race on live TV, and it ended with a crazy wreck of the 1 and 2 cars. This amazing race for third that turned into a race for pole, and then the 2 guys who got wrecked jumped out of their cars and got into a fist fight on live TV. It was sort of like every element of NASCAR that we love all kind of coming together.
We had all the sports covered. They had a wrestling match. We had a race, dramatic whole deal. So and snowstorm, it was one of those deals where they talk about a perfect storm. That was a perfect storm.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly a turning point. Going forward a little bit to your last win, 200 wins in sort of from Grand National to, I guess, Winston. The big cup wins, the 84 Firecracker 400. July 4th, Daytona. You, I think, have a broken camshaft at one point. You came back from 34th position to win this race.
Yeah, this was a deal where Cal and myself just ran off and left everybody up. And it came down. It really didn't come down to the last lap. We came up with a couple laps to go, and somebody had turned over in the first turn, and Cal and myself both saw it, but the caution flag was thrown behind us, so we were able to race back to the start finish line. And Cal was running second. He drafted me up the backstretch, finally got around me going in the third corner, just exactly like what I learned when David and myself did it in 76. Same circumstances right down the line. Cal goes in the corner, moves up a little bit. I'm able to turn and get down under it. I didn't clear him, but I got beside of him. And so when the cars got together, then the aerodynamics and stuff kind of stick them together because they're running running the same speed. And we run down the front stretch and stuff, and we was dead side by side. I don't know if one of us was there, but when we went through the dog leg, I was on the inside groove, and that let me go just a little bit ahead of him, just enough to beat him by a couple, 3 feet. And then when there was caution flag, it was still a lap or 2 to go. Well, when we come back around, I go to get the flag and stuff. Kel goes down pit road, thinking the race is over, and his crew just jumps up and down because he lost the position. He wound up third. He was that close to winning the race. He wound up third because he went down pit road and they finally speeded him on. And at that time, you could run down pit road wide open. So, he was able to get back in line before some more cars passed him. So he got confused and we was all confused. We just ran. And that was one of the deals I think I learned in the 76 race, which I lost. to be able to come back and win the 200th race in front of the President of the United States in July the 4th. Right. Again, it's a big perfect storm.
That's right. Ronald Reagan he started everyone's engines that day, and you ran up to and met him afterward.
Yeah, he said start your engines while he was in the plane. He got there about half the race and was able to see the race or part of the race. Then when the race was over, they had told he was up in the announcer stand, so I had to go and climb up through the crowd and stuff and go up, and we had a little bit of interview, I guess on TV, radio, whatever, talking to the President of the United States, and and he was running for president for the second time and stuff, so he was out campaigning, and I always told him that I got him on the sports page, he got me on the front page, so it was a good combination from that standpoint. Then when the race was over, then they had blocked out the garage areas and stuff, and all the families of the racers and the crews and stuff were able to come in and sit down and eat Kentucky Fried Chicken with the President of the United States. So a bunch of people eat with him that day, and it was really just a humongous day for no matter who won, because the President of the United States was there and was able to see the race.
It was quite a moment for NASCAR, I imagine. In general, memorable moment.
It was for us.
Yeah. I have a question about driving 200 miles side by side with all these racers over the years. You raced against everybody. AJ, you raced against Dale. You raced. Is there anybody that you were actually concerned you the most? Anybody who actually intimidated you, or you were most concerned about when you were racing?
There was a bunch of people out there I was concerned about, that's for sure. But probably the most deal was Pearson and myself. We had a big deal. We won 60-some races together, run first and second in 60-some races. And I think he beat me a couple of times more than I beat him. But it was just, we run dirt tracks, road courses, big tracks, little tracks. And, we was, no matter where he went or where I went, it came down a bunch of the times, just me and him racing for the lead. And, it was a friendly rivalry. And probably of all the people I've ever raced with, I had told my crew chief and told a lot of people, if David went down in the first turn and turned right, I'd follow him, because that's how much confidence I had in the way he drove a car and the way he respected racing with me. So it was double respect. I respected him and he respected me.
I'm trying to remember over the course of the years if you guys ever threw any punches at each other outside of the cars or not.
No, the only conflict we ever had was the '76 Daytona. Other than that, right. I'd probably run into him and he'd run into me, but not enough that it ever cost either one of us a race. So and that lasted for about 15 minutes. You know what I mean? And both crews were more upset than what the drivers were, because we was out there and we did it. And I always thought he was wrong and he always thought I was wrong. So that's the way it was.
That's racing. We have a couple minutes left. Really, just a minute or two. I wanted to get a whole bunch of reader questions. I just want to fire away a couple at you. Mr. Petty, is there any other racing series that you would have liked to compete in and feel you would have dominated at? F1, Indy, sports car, rally, etc.
See, you got to figure that my dad ran the very first cup racing in 1949. And when I came along, I worked on the car. Then when I got old enough, I started driving. So we had a family business. And my brother built the engines. My first cousin was my crew chief. Daddy and mother run the business part of it. And so it was a family business. I couldn't afford to go and leave the family and go to Indy or even think about any other kind of racing, because it was a kind of a deal that it was a family affair, and you don't leave the family. So everybody stayed together, everybody worked for everybody else, and that was one reason why I never even thought about, going and running anything but stock cars, because we was making a pretty dang good living out of it, winning a bunch of races. So, we might have been a big fish in a little pond, but we was happy with what was going on.
Yeah. All right. That's fair enough. Another question is, Bubba Wallace, will he be back? I know it's been a tough year. It started off as a tough year for Talladega, but
right now it's an up and down deal. I think he's had an offer or two, and he's looking for a better ride maybe than what, maybe a better car or whatever, maybe more money. I don't know. So far, everything is just still on hold, and we picked him up when he was, I guess, driving some trucks, and wasn't doing a regular deal. But I think we picked him up and said, this is going to be the future for us, going to be the future for NASCAR, going to be his future. And so, everything's trucking along pretty good until the money gets involved in the thing. And, a lot of times we didn't have enough sponsorship to really go first class deal. This coming year, we don't know what's going on. We think we're going to be a little bit better financial wise. We think we can give him a better car. And right now there's nothing going on. Everybody's on hold right now. We still got a little bit of time. If we don't get it done, Daytona's going to be here before we know it. So we got to get cracking here and get this thing squared away.
Yeah. Another question is, will RPM, Richard Petty Motorsports, be aligning with Toyota and Joe Gibbs next season?
That's in the future too. Right now, there's no paper signed about anything. We don't know if we're going to stay where we're at and do what we're doing. We're going to move. We're going to get a new car, a new driver, different car, different driver. Right now, we're in limbo, and I can't truthfully tell you. I can truthfully tell you I don't know. Okay, call me back in 3 weeks, and I might have more information for you. But right now, there's just a lot of irons in the fire, but there's a whole lot of smoke more than fire right now.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess finally, something I'm curious about, NASCAR could be switching to a hybrid gas-electric engine relatively soon. Is that something you look forward to?
They've thought about doing some of this on, definitely an experimental basis, but it's going to be a long time before they could do away with the gasoline engines, because they power everything, and you're not going to, in 4 or 5 years or 2 or 3 years, you're not just going to throw those all in the junkyard and come out with everybody with a new car, a new race car. And I think it's going to be a long time before you can go away from a gasoline engine in a stock car. And right now, I think that's too far out for me at 83 years old to even worry about. So whatever happens, we'll bend with the rules and do the best we can with whatever it is.
Well, thank you very much. You don't look 83 to me. That number surprised me.
Okay, buddy. Thank you, man.
Have a great day, and thanks. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.